Great. Well, welcome. Thank you all so much for coming today. And I know there's a lot of interest in this topic of side hustles. My name is Michelle Rapp. I'm the Associate Director of Alumni Career Strategy in the Office of Alumni Relations. And I'm thrilled to have our four accomplished speakers here today. They each have unique stories, lessons learned, advice, and a lot more to share. We'll be hearing about their paths, the choices they made, and advice that they have for all of us. And we'll be including 20 minutes at the end for Q&A, so you can get answers to your questions and keep the conversation going. So let me start by introducing the panel. We have Sophie Gechijan, a graduate from 2016 from the College of Social Sciences and Humanities, and she's the founder of Function Foods and also a VP of Digital Asset Product at Fidelity Institutional. Jen McDuffie has 2 degrees from Northeastern, one an undergrad from the College of Professional Studies in 2010, and her MBA in 2012. She is the managing director of the Resume Chic and also a fraud investigator for State Farm Insurance. Adam Simone is a College of Engineering 09 grad, and he is the co-founder of Leaf Shave and most recently Smoosh. And lastly, Danny Walsh, also College of Engineering, class of 2015, and he is CEO and founder of Peak State Coffee. So welcome to all of you. And again, thanks for your willingness to share your expertise today. So I'd like to actually start out with having you each give brief intros about your business and a little bit of the story behind it. Oh, sorry, Danny, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that you had an MBA also, class of 2018.
Double Husky.
Double Husky, don't know how I missed that, my apologies. Well, since you were raising your hand, Danny, why don't you start us off?
Sure, I'll be quick. So hi everyone, I'm Danny. I'm the founder of Peak State Coffee. We've introduced a morning coffee beverage that also has added health benefits, one for your brain, one for immunity, one for stress. We're featured in the gift store right now, the gift shop right now, the bookstore rather, Northeastern if you want to go check it out. But I'm based in Boulder, Colorado. I started my brand about 4 years ago, and I also consult for startup brands that are between 0 and $500,000 in sales. So I don't know which side hustle I'll be talking about today, but I'll pick one.
How about Jen?
Hi, my name is Jheneal McDuffie. I am the founder, owner, and CEO of the Resume Chic and Company, interview-winning resumes, co-founder of Milan Career Groups, and founder of Process to Profit. I don't know which one I'm gonna be talking about either, but I'm putting those 4 out there. And I got started. Friend kind of pushed me into writing resumes, wrote a couple of things for her, and 8 years later, I have 4 companies. I've won 6 different global awards, and I'm double certified as a career marketing professional.
Okay. And how about Adam?
Sure. Hi, I'm Adam. I currently run 2 consumer-facing brands. I suppose they just turned from side hustle to full-time gig at some point. Sometimes that line blurs really quickly. At Leaf Shave, we make modern plastic-free razors with differentiated technology. Our core customer base are largely people looking to make more sustainable swaps in their everyday life. And it's been about 6 years since we've been commercial on that, although we incorporated 12 years ago. So again, blurry lines of history. Those are always fun with side hustles. And because I'm a masochist, I started another consumer brand just a few months ago. It's called Smoosh. And we make embedded bar soap silicone body scrubbers for the shower. So my background is in making things and bringing those to market. Happy to talk about any part of that journey. Thanks for having me.
Sophie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sophie Gechijan. I founded Function Foods, which was, I'll speak in the past tense because I recently closed the business, but it was a nutrition bar company where each bar focused on a different function based on the ingredients that we used to comprise each of them. So our two flavors were brain food and muscle food. I grew and ran the company for about 5 years exactly, and all along had kept my full-time job at Fidelity Investments. I was always in tech product related roles, and now I'm in the digital asset space at Fidelity. And yeah, it's pretty fun to be back talking about my side hustle again, which I haven't done in about a year.
Something I'm interested in is just a little bit more about like why coffee, why resumes, why, you know, so just how those things came about for you. And anyone can jump in.
Yeah, so I actually I've always been really good at writing, and I had an internship right before Northeastern with a technical writing internship, and I got to write a multi-billion-dollar proposal. And then got obsessed with it. Well, I was a piece of it, small piece of it, but got obsessed with doing technical writing because it really is all about organizing thoughts, helping engineers put their engineering into words. So I really like doing that, and I started writing highly technical resumes. And from there, I mean, I found a passion. I started designing them well to match their fields, and I mean, that was pretty much it. It's kind of a love story, I guess, between me and words.
Cool.
Yeah, for me, because you said why coffee. I mean, for me, my journey started with scratching my own itch, right? Like I had my own morning routine where I love my coffee, and I would basically put stuff in it to make it healthier, but then that would result in a pretty significant taste and texture compromise. And I wanted to develop a product that tasted like great coffee, but was also kind of like a habit stack where it's also doing something that's good for you without the taste compromise. And then started that journey. And the other side of why I picked this business is I knew that selling products would be hard, so I wanted there to be built-in monthly recurring revenue. And starting a coffee business lends itself to direct-to-consumer subscriptions, and that's our main focus and our biggest revenue channel today. So there was the business side of it too.
Cool.
For me, I would say I wasn't particularly like passionate about food necessarily, but I saw a low barrier to entry in that space. I always had the entrepreneurial itch growing up. I had a notebook next to my bed of just like random ideas that would come to me at all hours of the day. But really saw a need, at least in the nutrition bar space around 5 years ago, where I couldn't find a bar that like tasted good, that was made with good ingredients. The ones that were healthy, I didn't think tasted good. And then the ones that I liked were full of sugar and other ingredients that I couldn't pronounce. And so I saw a low barrier to entry just as a space where I could innovate in my own kitchen before needing to commit serious capital to outsource production, and was able to experiment at a really small scale, part-time on the side for a long time before I started to actually scale the business.
Yeah, for me, it's, starting a business is hard enough. If your product isn't differentiated in some way, it's extremely hard. So it started with the idea, I guess. My co-founder and I had an idea for a new type of razor, and it's a pretty deep thicket of a century of IP around shaving, and we found we could thread a needle, and it's something that hadn't been done before. So as soon as we could prove the technology could work, we figured let's build some value around it, and we're still here. So happy we did it.
And for all of you, like, where did the business acumen come from? Were you winging it? Did you have some help? Did you have some skills? And also, and maybe with that, I want to also highlight too that Northeastern has a lot of support for both students and alumni. It's an ecosystem supporting entrepreneurship. So as part of that too, if you did use any of the resources at Northeastern, I'd be curious.
I didn't use any resources from Northeastern, but my general take on business is it's essentially just problem solving continuously every minute, hour, day, week, quarter, month, or whatever, until you run out of problems or business runway. So You know, you can learn a lot about the blocking and tackling in classes and with experiments in a classroom, but there's nothing like just doing it and figuring out what's going to break every moment of every day. I'm just sitting here thinking about what's breaking right now as I'm talking to you guys.
Agreed, to echo Adam. It really is about problem solving. I did actually use resources from Northeastern, but not until after. My original mission, I'll say, was to just learn from the best, right? I read resumes from all types of different writers, watched how they ran their own business, watched how they went full time. That was not my path. But I actually used NU Source to connect with alumni and students who wanted to gain like experience in marketing, got some help with social media, which was really cool. And I actually mentored as a part of WISE, which is Women's Interdisciplinary Society of Entrepreneurship. And that way I was able to kind of return the favor and help students with their different goals, become a part of that entrepreneurship ecosystem, as Michelle mentioned.
I used a ton of Northeastern resources, probably because I still live about a mile from campus. And so as a recent grad at the time, I still felt very connected to everything that Northeastern had to offer. I went through IDEA and won 3 rounds, so $30,000 of gap funding, which was incredible and such an invaluable resource to have, like, fairly accessible to anybody who has a serious business case that they put together. But it didn't stop there. I also used Scout, which was the on-campus design studio, and they did my packaging and branding and logo and like my whole like design packet, which was incredible. I had a team of students who were, I think, 4 or 5 designers who were assigned to me for a whole semester, which was amazing. And then I actually continued to employ one of them like as a contractor as I needed more design work later on, which was awesome. And then I also used the law school. They had a couple of programs and they helped me actually file my incorporation documents with the state of Massachusetts. And they also filed for my trademark for me as well. So a ton of free like legal work that I was able to suck out of Northeastern. So honestly, I just felt so supported from Northeastern through my whole journey. And honestly, I don't think I would have gone as far without all their support. And they didn't pay me to say that. So that's genuine.
I can say the same thing as Sophie. I took advantage of IDEA, the Gap Fund 3 times, also the law clinic for my trademark. I had Northeastern students do a clearance search for my trademark. The entrepreneurship club was a fun space to get inspiration for me. And I think I got more out of the E-Club and IDEA than I actually did out of my MBA. I remember being in my MBA and in a concentration in entrepreneurship, and there was a class and the teacher was like, how many of you want to start your own business? And I raised my hand and I was like probably one of 3 people doing that. And so I got a lot more from the extracurricular offerings than I did from the actual graduate degree. But the other thing I'll say is like there's a lot of learning on the side through resources like, how I built this with Guy Raz and Tim Ferriss and different things that master classes, things like that help. But ultimately, I think most of the knowledge comes from just getting out there and flexing the entrepreneurship muscle, getting that real world MBA and just going and starting something, try to sell something, product or service as quickly as possible and learn how that goes. That's where the real learning starts.
Wonderful. So I'm sure you all faced many decisions in your businesses. And can you tell us about a key decision or a lesson learned or a challenge that you faced and how you handled that?
I'll go first. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, that's good.
Better? Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. So I learned very quickly that I can't do everything myself. I needed to pull professionals in early, especially for the social media piece of it, right? I'm good at writing resumes. I'm good at organizing information. And I was okay at social media, but that was not my niche. It wasn't my specialty. And so I just found someone else who really loved social media as much as I love resumes and had them do it for me. Time management was also really important because as you mentioned, I'm working full-time as a fraud investigator, and I have 4 businesses. So I'm momming, wifing, working full-time. Finding a balance was a challenge for me, and that's where the plannering comes in. And also adaptability. What I learned was my business grew pretty quickly, so I had to drop things that didn't work almost instantly and find other things. Just like Adam mentioned with the problem solving, you have to find things that work, and you constantly have to think about what your customers are facing, what problems do they have, how can you solve it, find those pain points. So adaptability was key for me.
Yeah, those are all great points. For me, some of the big learnings were people are hard. They can be like one of the hardest parts of growing a business. We have about 20 employees at Leaf Shave, and it's a area that takes a lot more time than maybe I even would like for it to. But I feel very proud that we can employ a staff and team that size. But they also do draw a lot of energy. So they're getting used to that is a big learning. Maybe the other like biggest thing over the last, half decade or so for me was just like financial comfort, like understanding your numbers, and really being good about like building in product margins, really knowing what it takes. There's so many unknown costs that stack into, for me, a physical product business, much like many other businesses as well too. But like knowing those numbers and making sure you've got room to learn, and then educating yourself on the financial things available to you. Knowing how to read a cash flow statement, P&L, balance sheet. And a lot of times that just happens when it's your own books that you have to figure out how to read. That's easier to understand those things necessarily than in a classroom. And yeah, that was huge for me, getting financial literacy as a business group.
I can go next. 2 big challenges come to mind. The first one was scaling operations, which may sound obvious, but when you're actually in the trenches, and I was trying to scale from baking myself in a commercial kitchen to finding a co-packer. Co-packers who produce the product for you, they won't even talk to you unless you have X number in sales with secured demand or guaranteed demand to sell X thousand units of your product. And so I always found myself in these in-betweens where it was like the chicken or the egg. Like I couldn't have huge sales if I was making all the bars myself in a commercial kitchen. And that's why I need the co-packer, but they won't talk to you until you have those types of sales. It's a very similar type of cycle I found myself in when I was trying to find a distributor. They wouldn't talk to you until you have a certain amount of sales, but self-distributing to all these stores on my own isn't scalable, and like you hit a wall very quickly. So scaling was a huge one, and then the second big challenge that I faced was really marketing the product. I don't have any marketing training. I always thought that the biggest hurdle would be to get my product on a big grocery store's shelf. And so I put all of my energy pitching and pitching and pitching, knocking on every single door to get my product really in a big supermarket. I was able to achieve that, but I think I really underestimated that would actually be the easy part. And then the hard part is getting your product off the shelf, meaning you need people to buy your product once you actually get it on the shelf. And that's hard. There are only so many tables I can set up to host like sampling tastings on my Saturdays and Sundays. As I was doing this part-time, there's only so many places I can be at once. And so I think that's an area that I never like truly cracked, was how to like generate enough broad interest in your product to get someone to pay $2.50 to try something new that they haven't purchased before. So getting on the shelf was actually easier in the grand scheme of things than getting people to buy it and getting it off the shelf.
I'll go next. I think for me, really knowing my why has been so important. It's the reason to wake up every morning. If you think starting a business sounds cool, if you're not incredibly passionate about why you're doing this, you're going to get bored in a couple years and want to stop and wonder what you've done. What did I do for the last 2 years? And with that in mind, also knowing that it's going to take more money and take more time than you think, and being really conscious of the type of business you choose to start. There's product businesses, there's service businesses. And if you're going to try to bootstrap a product business, it's probably going to take a lot more capital than you think. Like when I was getting started, I didn't realize that the average brand that got to $1 million in sales, took at least $2 million in capital. I bootstrapped all my way to almost $500,000. But I reached a point where the business still wasn't generating enough profit to support my life. And then, of course, there's the option to go take venture capital or something if you want to make that your full-time job, is pitching and fundraising in a really competitive market. That's a demoralizing full-time job on top of the full-time job of running the business. And for me, I was never aligned with venture capital. My business inspiration, my why was kind of like what Patagonia has done: challenge the status quo, raise quality, and never take on outside investment, and let a business grow to serve a market organically without artificially injecting capital into it. That was never my aim. And so I had that big existential question of, am I going to take investment or not? And I decided I didn't want to have a business that was sold in 3 to 5 years and was not a meaningful business. And so instead, I decided to make Peak State something that is going to keep growing organically and take care of my income through a different side hustle like consulting.
Anything else you all want to add just after hearing each other's answers?
I mean, we could fill probably several hours with this singular question.
Well, here's another way I'll phrase it, actually, is any advice that you have for us or things that you might wished you knew sooner?
One of the things I love giving advice on, I dislike giving advice in general, but I have a co-founder of my businesses, and something that when people, first of all, going it alone is can be really lonely. So if you can find a partner in a business that you have a complementary skill set around, it's so nice to have someone to cathartic over the issues. But my couplet with that would be, plan for the divorce while you still like each other. So put what's called a founder's agreement in place, because if things go wrong, if someone wants out, if you have misaligned expectations a year, 2 years or more down the road, make sure you sit with your legal team and hammer out what that is going to look like. And again, do it while you like each other. That way it's an amicable split if that ever happens. I've never split with my co-founder, but we have an ironclad founder's agreement in place, and I can sleep easy at night.
Yeah, my advice is to get an accountant.
Lawyer, accountant, first two things.
And I also will say get a contract, because I run a service business, just totally different than, of course, the products. And people are people, and they take a lot of energy, and sometimes things don't always go from A to Z the way you want it to. So trust your gut, get a contract, which means find a lawyer. I will also say that for me, there was never a perfect time to start a business. First of all, you're never going to be 100% ready, right? And for a little while, I was letting perfectionism hold me back. I don't have a certificate. I'm not the greatest resume writer. You try to talk yourself out of it a million different ways, but my advice is to do it scared. Do it scared, be agile, be ready to switch gears at the drop of a hat, and go at your own pace, because there's going to be a piece of the market for you. If you go down the bread aisle, you'll see what I mean. 50 million different companies selling bread, and someone's going to buy it, right? As long as you find your people, your ideal clients, they'll buy from you. Just make sure that you're solving a problem, and yep, that's it. Do it scared.
I'll echo that with people always say that they don't have time, especially if you do have a full-time job, which I think this whole panel is about. And I think that's an excuse that we all put on ourselves for like a reason for why we can't do something. But I found that if you're really excited about something, you'll make time for whatever it is that you want to do. And you'll find hours in the day, you'll stay up later by choice, you'll work all weekend on your side hustle if you're actually passionate about it. And so I think that's the biggest excuse in the book, is that you don't have time for something. The other thing I'll say is that running a business is really not sexy. Like, the only things people post on Instagram is like their wins, but that is probably like 0.5% of what it actually looks like to run the business day to day. Like reading what type of insurance you should buy, filing to get a business bank account and realizing that you need a TIN number to even get a bank account to then finally get your corporate credit card. Like, there's so many schlepping for me boxes around the city to like the post office to try to ship things out before I figured out a better way. Inventory management, QuickBooks, like all the accounting, literally labeling every single type of transaction in and out of your books, like so unsexy, so much work. And so there's also no manual that like teaches you all of this. And so at least while I say it's so unsexy, it was still very fun. And for me, it was very fun to try to find the answer to like every little problem that came up, just to get me from step 1 to step 1.5 to then step 1.75 to then to step 2. And so just be aware that it's a lot of self-discovery, I would say, and like trying to find the answers yourself, because nobody is going to tell you exactly what to do next at any point.
Yeah, my advice is to love the process of generating the value that you're selling, because ultimately that is the most important thing to help you wake up every day. And that's what's going to help you write down something unique and have other people follow it. Similarly, like Derek Sivers says, like, you shouldn't start a business unless someone asks you to. So if anyone's telling you, hey, you're really good at this, you should really make that available to more people in the world, that's always a good sign for a side hustle, right? I'd also say, like, know your numbers, but know your numbers before you even start. Like, if you're gonna try to start a product business like me, and like make sure, like at least like in the food industry, make sure that your cost of goods sold, that you can sell it for about 4 times that. Because if you can't, like Sophie was saying, like if you get into retail stores, you have to do promotions and demos, and there's just more expenses than you ever imagined to try to get somebody to notice a new product in today's world. So if you can't 4x your cost of goods sold, you're gonna have a really hard time in the product industry. So that might make more interesting opportunities look like service type of businesses, where somebody's saying you're really good at something, and then you can just start charging for your time and then figure out how to scale it from there.
Well, I love the mix of different perspectives and experiences and advice. Well, I'm going to start taking some questions because they're starting to come in. You're generating lots of items. So first question, any advice on navigating full-time employment contracts that could have an impact on a side hustle?
Well, none of us are lawyers. I would say get a lawyer if you have a contract question, but certainly don't use company resources or time. It seems like common sense.
For me, I had to disclose an outside business activity right when I first incorporated my side hustle, and they run a check to make sure that there's absolutely zero conflict of interest. Luckily, between nutrition bars and finance, there was no overlap, but I would say make sure you're ahead of all this. You don't want to like get caught if you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, I disclosed to the hiring manager when getting hired that I had a side thing that wasn't going to interfere with my ability to do the full-time job, and actually didn't sign the normal hiring agreement, and they still hired me. I don't know.
I haven't disclosed a thing, and it's been 8 years.
Any
You just see
options?
me on LinkedIn. That's what. I mean, but fraud investigation and resume writing, there's no conflicts.
Okay. Another question is, I know some of you addressed time management. Says particularly time management in selling a service personally, such as resume writing, and also how to find clients and buyers. For time management and selling a service personally, like resume writing. That's for you,
So
Jen.
I started off a lot working weekends. I was also selling resumes at like $89 per resume, right? And my market initially was college students, because back then I was a couple of years removed from getting my master's. So it was easy to understand where they were coming from. We were all, broke college kids. We were just starting our new jobs, and it made sense to get into a business where I knew that there was a need for it, and I knew I was good at it because people were telling me to go for it. Now my resume packages are like $1,600 to $1,900. So they're worth it. And I spend less time now writing resumes. My volume was probably like 150 ballpark every quarter. And now I'm like doing way less than that because I've increased my prices. So as far as trying to find balance, when you love something, like I get so obsessed with writing resumes. I mean, it's kind of like it's just words on a paper, right? But you find the time, just like Sophie said, when you're really passionate about something, you will dig out hours where you had no idea there were hours to dig out. So I'm like, when my kids go to sleep, I'm up writing resumes, I'm designing something for a competition, I'm working with a client somewhere on the West Coast. You make it happen. And all I can say is just make sure you also get some sleep and take PTO. If you're going to be working full time, use your hours, take those PTO hours. You have to find that balance. And one thing that was big for me was setting boundaries with my customers as well. Don't have them calling you at midnight asking for a resume. It's not that important. It's never that serious. So set boundaries and yeah, find your hours. You'll find them.
Thank you. Another question from Gavin is, how do you convert from hobby to company? I'm having issues finding a path to transform my competencies into income. I have the connections and the ability, but do not know how to legitimize myself enough to sell my services.
Is this where you throw out there, fake it till you make it? That's what it is. It's a process, right? You have to work the process. Like, you're never going to know everything. That's why I said do it scared. You're never going to know everything. You just have to listen to what people want, solve their problems. Sometimes you need to solve a problem that they don't even know they have, right? Like, create one. But I will say, I mean, taking myself from hobby to company, because it really was starting from scratch, like just writing resumes for fun for people who needed it. But I started studying for certifications to legitimize myself and just getting really, really good at my craft. So I spend a lot of hours doing research for those competitions that I mentioned, and working with other resume writers and helping newer resume writers get more established. So, and as I'm helping them, I'm learning myself. So.
Great. Adam, were you going to say something?
No, I wish I could. I've never sold a service.
All right.
Sell widgets.
Okay, well, I'm going to move on to Lacey's question. If you were working full-time before launching your companies, how did you navigate the transition? When and how did you decide to leave your full-time job to focus on your venture?
I can take this one. I've left my job twice for this company. The first time was in 2017, which was about a year after running our Kickstarter. We had a successful Kickstarter to kind of provide some initial funds for getting our first product underway. Took us about a year to get it manufactured and kind of satisfy all those backers. And then I'm like, great, I can finally leave my job. And it was really hard because I loved what I did. I really, really loved it. I worked in medical technology development and in small businesses and startups as well. So I had a lot of passion for it. And that came in like fits and starts until I just like, I wanted to bet on myself. And I did, and I left that job and full-time on Leaf Shave for about a year, and it was going slow. and it was going so slow. I was like, I need some money again. So I got another job, and I was like, great, back to nights and weekends for Leaf Shave. And then I worked another job for another couple of years, and I loved the team and I loved everything I was doing. And again, it was really, really hard. And at that point, the second time I left, so this was when when the company had enough proof points underneath it. So we had hit a couple $1 million in sales. We were hiring our first employee, and I'm like, I can't have a full-time job and then like hire someone and be their boss. So I said, I'm gonna like take the leap again. We could actually start drawing a salary, and that was really the right time for me. Much like Danny, we're bootstrapped and self-funded this whole way. So sometimes that means if you're not raising outside capital, like the right time to make the leap is when you can pay yourself, or unless you have significant savings in place, but those are probably going into your business anyways. So those were the two times that I jumped out, and happy I did.
I can take it from the flip side. Like, I think it's fair to admit that I was never at a financial point with my company that I could take the leap, which is like fair to admit, I think. And so I think because of that, I did both my side hustle and my full-time job for as long as I could until I reached like a point in the road where I knew I had to make a decision one way or the other. I had felt accomplished with what I had achieved with my company on my own. I got into some of the big box stores that I like, to me, felt like I was successful and achieved what I was looking to achieve. But I knew that if I wanted to take it to the next level, it would require me to be full-time and give my company a lot more of what I was a lot more of what I would have needed to take it to the next level. And simultaneously, I got promoted in my corporate job. I liked the path that I was growing and progressing on. And so that's when I actually made the decision the other way to wind down my side hustle, which was a very easy decision, actually kind of a liberating decision at that point, which I think is okay. And some may call it a failure, but I actually learned so much in the 5 years that I was actually in such a peaceful place being able to close that book and felt a sense of relief.
Hey, Ryan's question is, does the panel have thoughts on freelance type work such as Fiverr or Upwork as an initial step toward developing a side hustle?
I can just say quickly, I think you can use those platforms to be discovered, but hopefully you just get reviews quickly and then scale your prices up to what your market rate prices are, because those platforms, people often find the cheapest thing. At the end of the day, you want to think about how somebody might discover what service you're offering. So a little bit of social proof can help you, but you just be careful not to get into being the cheapest price, because you're competing with people in different countries who have totally different salary needs to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Their question is, I see people advising about sales, but don't know how to start. I'm assuming that means start selling, but please clarify if that's not the case.
What are you selling, Annette? Is it a service or a product? Best way to start is to start anything.
Okay.
So I would just get going. Yeah.
Start knocking on doors, give out samples, send packages to influencers, local influencers, and just knock on as many doors, and you'll get rejected from most. But even if one is willing to talk to you, that's all you need to really start.
I started doing some free resumes for my church folks, and free resumes for veterans, anything to just get your name out there and build some sort of credibility and trust.
And get reviews and get testimonials and get feedback when they say no. Oh, okay, you're not interested. Please tell me what your hesitation was. What would have made this more compelling? And learn every time you get a no. And then by the time you've iterated many times, you'll be getting yeses.
I've used a lot of my no's to get yeses. I mean, you studied that stuff. You learn the most when people are like, this is not for me. Okay, well, yes, tell me why. So I completely agree. And then you use that for your next sale. Yep.
Really good book on that called Go for No. One of the best sales books I've ever read in my life.
I will read that. I like it. Go for now.
Yeah, any other resources, books, podcasts, people, anything that come to mind?
I'll say streamline. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say streamline as much as you can. If you decide to use, let's just say, a website, go with an easy website builder like a GoDaddy that has like your scheduling, marketing, your e-commerce is all in one, and use the free stuff too. So LinkedIn is free marketing. Facebook is free marketing. You know, find your people. Use Zapier to do like integrations. Find a business coach too. It's a good resource. I'm a coach and I have a coach, so but yeah, automating as much as you can, that will free up more time for you to actually sell to customers.
And for as long as this is still out there and alive and a thing that you can download, who knows these days, but get on TikTok. I don't know, like get out there and start talking into a void, and they'll be those kids are brutal on there, but they'll set you straight. I think social media, it's trite, but like it really works, and sometimes you just need to take your time and start building your messaging.
Yeah, if you're starting a product business like Kickstarter and Shopify, if you're doing like freelancing, check out like Dubsado. If you want to sell like courses, check out Kajabi.
Teachable.
Yeah, that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a writer, get on Substack. There are all these sorts of, you have to be careful not to over tech your infrastructure out of the gate. It's really easy to accumulate a big monthly bill for things that you may not need yet. So just be precious with your money.
That is so important. Like, go find customers before you spend any money on software, branding, naming, anything like that. Just go find customers. Post a service on Craigslist. I started a moving business on Craigslist as a different side hustle. Just, I'll help you move with my giant empty van. Before I knew it, I had like 100 people referring me. And that was like a different side hustle I had, but I never had a business. Like, it's totally possible to just validate something before you spend any money.
Yeah, starting a business isn't putting a website up. It's making money. So make the sale before you spend 40 hours building a site.
Agreed 1000%. 1000%. The website really is a supplement, right? It's almost like there to show you're legit, but you got to have people who want to buy your stuff first. So
Heck, even like product businesses, like we're built on Shopify, but we could just be on Amazon. We don't even need a website, give half my money to Bezos. It's fine.
I would also say try to find like one mentor who's actually in your specific industry. They may be a competitor, but like maybe try to just build a relationship with someone who can help you in your really niche space, because I found the food space just so vastly different from any other space I'd worked before. And so just someone who can tell you like, oh, Stop and Shop's really easy to work with versus Market Basket, for example. That's not actually true, but just someone who can shed some like insider light and help guide you a little bit.
That will definitely save some time too. Like, they've already done the legwork for you, so agreed.
Yeah, they just need to be like a step ahead of you, at least, But I also think, Sophie, you said something really interesting, which is like competitors. At whatever stage you're at, there are no competitors. Like, your competitors are your friends. I have such close relationships with a half dozen other like small razor brands, and we talk all the time. What are you seeing? What's hard for you right now? I have this problem. How did you solve it? And yeah, we're competitors, I guess, but like everyone shaves. It's fine. There's room for everyone. And so community helps a lot when entrepreneurship. It can be pretty lonely.
Couldn't agree more.
And like effectual entrepreneurship is a cool concept. Like, of course, you might have an idea that you want to force into the world, but effectual entrepreneurship is saying, just taking like a running a list of all the assets around you. Like, what are my skills? What do my friends say I'm good at? What resources do I have that not everybody has? What have people around me asked for? And like kind of just looking at entrepreneurship as a way to be of service rather than a way to like take the idea that
Get
your
money.
ego has created and then force it into the world, you know?
Fabulous. For those of you who did suggest some resources that may not be common knowledge, if you might have a second to throw those in the chat, that would be great
Oh,
too. I know,
definitely send those
Jen, you
out,
did some. Another question is from Jennifer. From a service perspective, any thoughts on partnering with a much larger competitor that does not have capacity or is priced too high to work with smaller consumers?
So I'll take that. I had the opportunity to work with a larger company, but my work is my work. And I didn't want anyone else to have access to my processes, how I write resumes, the type of research that I do. I feel like that's mine, and that's what makes my business so special. Yeah, that was just my perspective of anyone else. It's even hard for me now, like to hire people because I'm like, I don't want to share my secrets with you. I don't want to share my goodies with you. And then there's also the flip side of that. It's like, well, if you don't share with the people who you hire, then are they going to do the same quality of work? So yeah, rock in a hard place. But yeah, I didn't want to partner with anyone.
Another question is also about any advice on going after consulting contracts with corporations.
Build a network. No one really likes networking, but any consulting I've ever done in the past has always been from my network. It's people who trust you and you build trust over time.
And build a track record, something to point to.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Most of mine actually, getting ready to do another one right now. Most of mine have come from business friends. So I started with one organization, and one organization, there were like 15 people who listened, and 5 of those were like, hey, we want you to come to our organization to go do this. So
Yeah, a really tough lift is cold calling or emailing. It's just tough. Like my email is littered with probably 20 cold outreaches just in this hour we've been talking, and they all get deleted. It's tough.
Well, I'm curious about what you're all seeing going forward for yourselves and your businesses.
I like to make cool things and bring them out. So at this point, I feel pretty confident I'm just going to be able to do that until I die, and hopefully that's a long time.
I think even though I'm just in the corporate space right now, I think I'll always have the entrepreneurial itch in my blood. And so I think I'm open to starting a new company in the future. However, I'll caveat that by saying I would need to be, now that I know how much work and how hard it is to grow something from an idea into scaled production, I'm not sure I would do something in like the CPG consumer product goods space going forward. I think I would probably be more interested in leaning into like something more scalable with tech that may closer align to the skills that I have in my corporate world. But and it would have to be an amazing idea for me to want to commit all my extra hours again into something on the side.
well, for me, I'll be doing more consulting. I'm actually getting ready to launch a new program focused on neurodiversity in the workplace. And it's about teaching employees how to share their truths and build successful relationships and level up in their careers. And that came from I'm bipolar. So I'm starting from something that I know. And I know it's tough in corporate. So this will be really interesting.
And for me, I'm committed to never having to take a job, a corporate job ever again. And just continuing to iterate and trust and commit to the entrepreneurial process to know that at some point it will work. I mean, I've just heard so many stories of like 11 failed businesses and then the 12th one worked, like from other people who have succeeded massively. And all I know is every time you try, you get better. You used to get a superior power of seeing and beginning again more intelligently, and all the skills you take with you, like entrepreneurship as a tool of self and personal growth that then applies to how you're better next time. So like, I hope to never work for somebody else again. That's my future.
Yeah, how do you feel like this experience of starting businesses has changed you or grown you?
Did you say Jen? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, just any of you? Nope.
It has significantly made me better in my real job, my corporate job. Time management, doing 10 different things at once, being able to like positively manage people, even if I just had contractors who I employed in my side hustle. Now I do manage people in my real job. Just being able to communicate, balancing so many different vendor relationships. I gave a whole TED talk at Northeastern a few years ago on exactly this topic of how doing something on the side has really helped propel my corporate career forward.
Yeah, it will make you fearless. Honestly, I see a question about fear. So just like get started. It will tear all your fears down because there'll be nothing left to be afraid about. And yeah, I'm a better person for it. I would highly recommend.
I think it's helped me get to a point where I can finally relax in chaos. And it took a while to get here, and it wasn't pretty. Like the beginning is, oh my God, it's not succeeding fast enough. And I feel like I can't get everything done, and I feel like it's not perfect. And then eventually you realize, oh my God, it's never going to be perfect. And I'm never going to feel like I'm enough. And that's all okay. And then you realize like, oh, like I am thriving with this imperfect system that constantly needs new problems to be solved. And that's how the whole world works. And like, I'm just going to sit and be with that. And that's okay, which is just a complicated journey to explain, but it's just now I'm able to relax within chaos.
Yeah, starting a business is very humbling. It's very humbling. Because people really will tell you what they like. You'll see that you get some more support from strangers than some people who are really close to you. You'll learn so much about yourself. Like I never thought I'd be working as much as I did, but for me, it doesn't feel like work. It slightly feels like an obsession. But I have a lot of fun with it. And I'm like, my husband could care less about resumes, but every single time I write a good one, he's like, okay, let me hear it. And I'm like, I'm so happy to tell him about all of them. And he's like, you got to find a resume friend. But anyway, it's scary. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of heart. So if you don't have the heart, find something that you really love to do, because it'll evaporate real quick if you're really not tied to it.
Yeah, there's so much self-motivation that comes when running your own business. Like no one is there to cheer you on. It is solely you doing this because you want to do this. And so I would say, and just having the ability to crave like solving that next problem every single day, or even many within the same day. And I think you just become really comfortable. I really liked what Danny said around like comfortable, not having so much uncertainty around you at the same time, but just knowing what you're working towards and like the next incremental improvement that you can hopefully try to solve that day.
Agree. I like that. What Danny said, to calm in the chaos is what I call it.
This is so fabulous. Anything else you want to add, speakers, before we wrap up?
I just have one last one. Just like know your primary aim. Like know why you want this to exist. If it's just to make money, you can probably make more money by just negotiating with your current boss at your current job. So just like really, really know why you want to do this. There's nothing more important than that.
Wow, great note to end on. Thank you, Danny, Sophie, Jen, and Adam. It's just such great insights, and there was like a nice chemistry of how it all fit together. It's a lot of wisdom shared in just an hour's time, and very inspiring to hear from you, hear what you've learned, hear about your hard work, and just lots of different perspectives about how it affects you and how to go forward with your why. It's really wonderful. I really appreciate it. I did put into the chat, there are some resources that's on our alumni page. One, it points to the Northeastern ecosystem, which includes students. And then also for anyone out there who is a business owner, including our speakers, that link will also take you to, you can list your business on our website. We have like a directory of alumni businesses. So that's just another way for people to find you. But thank you so much again to the speakers, such great insight and information, and thank you all to those who attended and all the good questions. We look forward to hearing about all of you and your